from Julio Cruz and Gaylord Perry to Alvin Davis and Harold Reynolds to father and son back-to-back bombs, from Junior J, Joey, and Edgar with Randy, A-Rod, Dan, and the Sheriff, to Ichiro Moyer and Mikey C, to King Felix, Kyle Cruz, and Cano, to the present with Julio, Gilbert, Kirby, and Cal. I don't believe it. It just continues. My, oh my, it's another sports podcast. My, oh my, we have a flurry of NFL transactions. The NCAA tournament bracket is now set. March Madness starts this week. We have Major League Baseball real live games starting in roughly 10 days. And for those golf fans, we also had the Players' Championship at TPC Sawgrass this weekend. My, oh my, it's another sports podcast. We got to give a huge shout out to our super producer, Indy, out there in Nashville, Tennessee, rocking the ones and twos. That's Vaden Podcast Services. Vaden Podcast Services. They bring the show to life. I got to give a huge shout out to all the homies in the live chat. They telling jokes. They dropping knowledge. You're all a critical part of the show. We love you so much. I got to give the biggest shout out to the best co-host a dude could ask for. RG is grinding his ass off right now, doing the 7 to 7 graveyard shift. So we have our favorite sixth man. My, oh my, this dude comes off the bench like Jamal Crawford, scorching the nets. Eric Neal, what's going on, bro?
Dude, I'm here when you need me. Let's get to work. We got football off season. We got baseball starting up so soon. We got F1 just started this weekend. That's a little neat, but it's a very exciting sports time, my friend.
Let's do it, baby. Well, we have a lot to dig into NFL-wise right now. And as a business, these guys just roll over everybody because they always steal the headlines. We should be gearing up for baseball. We're filling out our brackets, but still the NFL updates keep coming in hot. Let's just jump into the Seahawks right now, dude. We already see a little bit from my homie Mariners lifer right now. And so we trade Geno Smith to Las Vegas for pick number 92. We trade DK Metcalf for pick number 52 to Pittsburgh. We cut hometown hero, franchise stalwart Tyler Lockett and several other vets. But the Seahawks end up with 10 picks total in the 2025 draft, 5 in the top 92. Any thoughts on all of these trades? And then we can, after that, get into a lot of the new coming players.
Quickly, Tyson Baxter, thank you, brother. Good to see you. The Lockett was expected. You've pointed out before, we were in salary cap, not quite the hell that the Saints were in, but we were in a lot of trouble. So we had to do something. It sounded like John wanted to re-sign Geno. He gave him an offer, and it wasn't the offer Geno was looking for. So what do you do then? I give John credit for getting something back, for getting a draft pick, and it feels like Geno and that relationship there was still a lot of frustration from the previous year's negotiations. So he goes to the guy that, will always pat you on the back and build you up. And you know what? That's might be what Geno needs right now. DK, same thing. You got to get something for him. I don't think he was going to be worth the money, personally, just personal opinion. He's not that, at least at the moment. He's got the talent, but he's not a crisp route runner. He can be a head case. He's not the Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. He's just not that at the moment. He's the next tier down. He could be one of those, but that's going to be kind of up to him. Again, getting something back for him, love that. And a lot of the cuts, Bant, Lockett, it all makes sense when you look at it from a business perspective. These guys are running a business. They do have a hard salary cap. You have to make some of these moves, unfortunately, even if they are hometown favorites. So, Unfortunately, it's kind of where we're at.
It's the nature of the beast. It's that simple. Tommy, the Seahawks cap situation was horrible, and now it's really good. The Seahawks entered the offseason, I want to say $25+ million over
yeah.
the cap. And even after all these signings, there's still probably going to be 40 to 50 million in cap space, including a whopping like 230 to 240 million dollars of projected cap space in 2026. So we're starting to look good now. I'm with Mariners Lifer. It's obvious as day we need to improve the interior offensive line. The one thing I'm going to say is I still hold out hope for Christian Haynes. I thought how we handled his playing situation was terrible. You put him in, you take him out, you put him in, you take him out, then you put in a lesser player for a long term. So we'll see how this all unfolds. The huge one though, bro, is Tevin Jenkins, offensive guard from the Chicago Bears, is going to be in Seattle on Monday. We record this Sunday night. Jenkins was the 18th ranked offensive guard out of 135 rated guards according to PFF. So this could be a sneaky good signing. The only reason I think he's even still on the free agent market right now is he has a little bit of an injury history. He's never played a full 17 games, only 6 as a rookie, but the last 3 years is 13, 12, and 14, which really isn't that bad in totality. Sam Darnold, I think he's an improvement over Geno, but it's a small sample size. We have 5 years telling us one story and 1 year telling us a different story. So the jury is out, but it's a great contract though, bro. Although it says 3 years, 100 million, only 55 million is guaranteed. And 2026 and beyond, there will be no dead money. So if this completely hits the fan, the Seahawks will be able to walk away clean. And if Darnold balls out, 3 years, 100 million is a great deal. And I just also want to put it like this, because I am actually a Geno Smith fan within realistic expectations. He's a really good bridge quarterback, but he's not the guy I want to build my franchise around for the next 10 years. Let's just say they're equal players, which is honestly kind of fair to say. Sam Darnold's 7 years younger and cheaper, so that's an easy move in the NFL.
It is, and the interior offensive lineman still makes me so nervous because tell me if you've heard the story before. A quarterback goes to Minnesota and revitalizes their career. Brett Favre, Case Keenum, Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham. They are a quality franchise. Minnesota may not have gotten over. They are a quality franchise. I am nervous about a quarterback that has a career year in Minnesota and then moves on. I really hope I'm eating crow this time next year. I am not excited for Sam Darnold. I am not excited for him because of 2 reasons. The career year of a Minnesota quarterback, because they are a good franchise. And the fact that we've been through this story before of our interior offensive linemen. Okay, yeah, we're just going to get Luke Jokel. We're going to get a Fetty. We're going to get all these guys who, Mike Upati, when he's 67 years old. We've seen with RG's beloved Eagles, if you can keep a stud offensive line together, how much of a difference that makes. Sam Darnold, now I understand most quarterbacks are going to struggle under pressure. When you look at Sam Darnold's numbers, when he's under pressure, they plummet. He's bottom third of the league, I want to say. And at this point, and even if they address it through the draft, I'm like, I've seen this story before. John Schneider has trouble identifying offensive linemen. In the same way, Jerry DiPoto has problems identifying offensive hitting talent. For some reason, there's a disconnect. John, build the rest of the team and give the line to somebody else.
Okay. I got to ask you a question.
Unless it's a top 5 team.
I got to ask you a question then. So in John Schneider's tenure, he's had about 6 or 7 different offensive line coaches. And the Seahawks been trying to get him to hit a moving target too much because you need to find the guys that work for a certain scheme besides a rare few like a Walter or a Hutch that are just going to be Hall of Famers no matter who they play for.
It's a good point. It's, we've seen quarterbacks go through it where they go through. Sam Bradford was a great case where he had a different offensive coordinator every year for the first 7 or 8. Getting someone who fits the scheme is huge. Where Tevin Jenkins, Chicago has redone their offensive line and this guy's getting cast out. So am I supposed to get excited over an offensive lineman coming from what was one of the worst offensive lines.
Mm-hmm.
He might fit in this scheme a lot better. Sam Darnold already has a lot of familiarity with Clint Kubiak when he was Brock Purdy's understudy and got to know the system there. I hope I'm wrong, but we've seen this with Russell. He could scramble. We've seen this with Geno. They take 3 steps back and it's different colored jerseys right in their face. This has less to do with Sam Darnold and more to do with we've just struggled with the line. And in fairness, this is a conversation 28 other teams can have at the same time. Mm-hmm. Offensive linemen are, as John likes to say, there's no tree. You can't just go out and pick one off the tree, which is very fair. But the fact that Sam Darnold's younger, I like the small hand Sam. The fumbles do make me a little nervous, especially if he's going to be under that pressure. I'm very meh about the Darnold signing, and it is because of our lack of offensive line. And I've seen too many quarterbacks come from Minnesota having phenomenal years and then go elsewhere and just be normal to mediocre.
Okay. Well, I think that's a fair point, and I'm a firm believer that you really got to surround your quarterback. You really, even if you have a Patrick Mahomes, even if you have a Lamar Jackson, you have to surround your quarterback with talent and coaching to win at a consistent level and have a productive QB for the long term. Let's flip the tables a little bit. I want to get your opinions on a couple other Seahawks, but as soon as this news went down, bro, I was thinking of Texas Power Ranger because 5-time Pro Bowl left tackle Laramie Tunsil was traded to the Washington Commanders for 4 different draft picks. It is a good trade for the Texans, but that's assuming you can replace a left tackle on a team that already needed help on the offensive line. They just also traded first-round bust offensive guard Kenyon Green to Philadelphia. So I'm glad to see Texas Power piping in, a little frustrated and confused what's going on, especially when you have an ascending young quarterback like CJ Stroud. I guess what I'm going to say is, you know firsthand how hard it is to replace a top-level offensive lineman. Speak to me on it, because our beloved Seahawks have spent 20 years trying to replace Steve Hutchinson.
Yeah, Steve, Walter, the Max Unger trade comes back, and we all kind of shudder about that. It was exciting to get Jimmy Graham, but Max was much more of a fit in this system. Tyson Baxter, so this evening we're sipping on a little bourbon cast rum, just a little with a little splash of Coke, have a little fun on a Sunday evening. The offensive line rodeo is nerve-wracking, but it is also the reality that we've had for a long time. What are you thinking on the pieces that we've put around? Because I do like the Cooper Kupp and Valdez Scantling. I like a couple of these additions that we're making. I'm hoping that we can keep Darnold upright enough to prove that Minnesota wasn't a fluke. Mm-hmm. That's kind of where I'm at on that opinion.
Yeah, I get that. I really like the signings for the Seahawks at the wide receiver core, because to me, it's all about what's your fit and what's your role. Jackson Smith and Jigma is a number 1 receiver in this league. I truly believe that. Valdez Scantling gives you a deep threat. Cooper Kupp gives you a chain mover. I like the Seahawks 2 tight ends. So to me, if it all comes together the way I think it could, we have someone that can do a little bit of everything. The one positive I'll give to Texas Power Ranger, and I'm talking about wide receiver cores fitting together, is they traded a future 7th rounder for Christian Kirk, who, although was getting some big time money and is not really a number 1 receiver, I've always loved Christian Kirk from his time at Arizona. Now he's gone to Jacksonville, now Houston. Christian Kirk is a fantastic number 2. And all he has to do is be a number 2 with Nico Collins, who we always forget about, is one of the best receivers in football. It's really that simple. And so we'll see. Mariners Lifer doesn't like the Kupp signing. I mean, we'll all see. The thing is it's still early to tell, because we don't know how the offseason is going to finish. If we sign Tevin Jenkins and we're able to draft a couple of offensive linemen within the first 3 rounds, I think it all changes. And here's the other huge factor, too, as I mentioned to you before we even went live with this thing, is Cooper Kupp. It says 3 years, $45 million. That contract scares the shit out of me. But I'm also looking at a signing that I love was DeMarcus Lawrence, and his paperwork says 3 years, $42 million, Eric. But guess what the reality is? That's only $18 million guaranteed. So we know how these agents play it. They put out the most maximum value dollar the contract could possibly be. But D-Law has a $42 million contract, but only 18 million guaranteed. So if Cooper Kupp, if I see him at like that 18 to 20 million guaranteed over 2 years, which is basically what D-Law has, I could ride with that quite a bit. But you're right, man. It all starts up front with the offensive line. So we're going to have to see what happens in the offseason. And the Seahawks, honestly, are banking big time on a new offensive scheme and coaching staff improving our old line, because although I think the talent wasn't there for the Seahawks, you know how much we both love Ryan Grubb. He did that line no favors with his play calling and scheming in 2024.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The speed was just, he wasn't able to scheme guys open. The line, just nothing fit, nothing worked. And at least it feels like at least now we have a clear vision moving forward. Obviously, these guys are yet to play even a preseason game or get to OTAs or anything like that. But it does feel at least like there's a clear vision on paper. There is a clear plan. That's step one. You got to at least do that before you can have the building blocks. You got to have the blueprints before you can actually build a damn building. So we've at least done that. I love the DeMarcus Lawrence signing. I love a good veteran presence on that D line. And I also love how he didn't even hesitate to say, why'd you leave Dallas? Well, I ain't winning the Super Bowl there. Thank you for calling it like it is.
There we go. There we go. Hey, and we brought back Jaron Reed and Ernest Jones. This defense might be freaking awesome next year. And I know you agree with me on this. In the LOB peak of the powers part of that era, the back end got all the shine, but all the fans that really know what's going on here know that the defensive line was the critical component to the team. And then let's fast forward to the Super Bowl 49 loss to the Patriots. I still firmly believe if Cliff Averill doesn't go out with a concussion, the Seahawks win that game. And if it was Super Bowl 48, they still had enough defensive line depth. They could have overcome Averill getting hurt mid-game. They did not have that same depth in Super Bowl 49, and it bit them in the ass. And we all know that infamous interception at the end of the game.
Yeah, both him and Jeremy Lane, if they stay healthy, because Lane was everywhere, and he went out early in that game, and then they were picking on Richard Sherman's buddy, that kid with the long neck. I can't even remember his name off the top of my head right now. But that would have been a different ball club. And that brings up, the health also is a massive factor in these teams making deep runs. And Tevin Jenkins, he hasn't had the best health, but he has been, it feels like he's been playing more. What did he play this last year? 14 games. That was his most in a season. Unfortunately, the way the NFL is right now, if you see 14, 15 games, if they miss 1 or 2, that's, maybe this isn't quite right, but it almost feels expected at this point because of the grind of the season and because of the grind of just what they do. It almost feels, especially a lineman, if they're going to miss a game or 2, that doesn't really feel out of turn. I think the only position we expect to be there every single game is quarterback. All the other ones, it feels like they're going to get, a high ankle sprain, a hamstring, something throughout this long year. Because if you're going to cut out a preseason game just to get more money at a 17th game, something's going to happen, unfortunately.
It's football. You're going to get hurt if you play football long enough in your life. It's that simple. So a lot of Seahawks fans were really disappointed that Will Fries ended up in Minnesota rather than Seattle. But I'm gonna say this though. We're concerned about Tevin Jenkins' injury scenario. but Will Fries broke the fuck out of his leg in week 5 last season. So this is a dude that's coming off a rather catastrophic injury, and Minnesota could easily be right, but giving a guy that big of a contract and not requiring him to take a physical after such an injury is a major gamble the Seahawks weren't willing to take, even though they were willing to offer him big time money. So that's going to go into consideration. If Tevin Jenkins, if his physical pans out on Monday, I bet you he leaves Seattle with the contract. If the doctors fail him, the doctors fail him. But the health and the injury aspect is always a big thing to consider. And we've seen teams get bit by this all the time, buying damaged goods. You mentioned Luke Jokel just a little bit ago. That was a guy that had a really good couple seasons after he moved to guard and was considered a bust at tackle. But the Jaguars knew him better than the Seahawks, and they knew that his knee was damaged goods, and that's what happened there. So I don't blame the Seahawks for not doing their due diligence on the health side. I mean, it happens often in the housing market, but don't you really want to get an inspection on your home first before you plant that much money in something? Same thing when you're trying to give a multi-million-dollar contract to a stud athlete.
Yeah, I was one of the ones who wanted Fries, but at the same time, the injury history is there. And the Seahawks do seem like they've gotten it right with timing of letting go some of their people. And let's be fair, Russell Wilson's kind of the most glaring one if they got the timing right. The franchises that let these guys walk, they know them the best. There's usually a reason they know them the best and let them walk. And shoot, even Geno and DK, they moved them and got something back, signed Darnold. So now you got draft picks and a cheaper, that's a stupid term for this, cheaper quarterback. So these are the people that know him the best, and they're saying, you know what? Okay, there's a reason for that. Because if you're healthy and if you're killing it, these teams don't let you go. Because otherwise, these GMs and these coaching staffs, they can have jobs. It's the running joke I make with the farm system keeps GMs employed in baseball.
Yeah.
It's not the MLB product. It's the farm system that keeps them employed. Like, how the hell is the Giants front office or whatever's going on with them when they let Saquon walk, sign Danny Dimes? I mean, it looks like an absolute mess. So I'm very thankful that we're not in one of those franchises positions. But Cooper Kupp, I'm very excited about him, but the Rams let him walk. They signed Devontae Adams.
Upgrade.
Hopefully they're still fueling the tank. Yeah, hopefully they're still fueling the tank for Kupp. Love him, but I just hope that he's not going to be injury prone and that he'll be a Bobby Ingram style, move the sticks and just be a reliable target for Darnold.
Yeah, no doubt. I think one thing we need to consider, though, too, is we all love Tyler Lockett up here in the Seattle area.
Yeah,
but this scheme is going to require wide receivers to block, and Cooper Kupp has about 30 to 40 pounds and 4 to 5 inches on Tyler in terms of size, and that's going to matter in this scheme. I don't even know what to say about the Cowboys. I didn't want to shit all over your parade, Tay. I don't know what they're doing right now. I mean, Jerry Jones is a Hall of Fame owner and the worst GM in the league, except maybe what's going on with the New York Giants, as he said. Shout out to super producer Indy, because his least favorite Seahawks, Stone Forsythe, got signed by the Giants. So that's a front office that doesn't see the value in Saquon Barkley, but sees the value in Stone Forsythe, who got benched or some rookie from Findlay College. And y'all know none of us heard of Findlay College before.
Oh, that's bad. I did not see the Stone Forsythe. That's bad. I am very thankful again that we're not an inept franchise, and it's hard to crap on too many of them as Mariners fans because we got it on the other end. But when we're not a Jets, a Giants, it's hard to watch. It's hard for my heart goes out to the fans because it feels like you're looking at these teams and going, what the Cowboys offseason, and it feels like this has been I'm not going to pretend to pay attention to them as much as the Seahawks, obviously, but It doesn't feel like they do much in the offseason consistently. They sign their own. They take care of their own, it feels like. But if his goal is to win the Super Bowl, yeah, we've beaten this dead horse quite a few times. So
Yeah, no doubt. Well, the funny thing to me
yeah,
is the Cowboys are a good drafting team. And usually
yeah,
good
very.
drafting teams make more noise in the playoffs. Usually the good drafting teams like Tyson Baxter's Ravens are always in the mix. Does it result in Super Bowl wins? Dude, we can go over how hard it is to win a Super Bowl. There's a couple franchises that have made it look way too easy, but I want to dance on somebody's grave, even though I know it's going to bite me in the ass because they're going to be better than they are on paper. But Sunday evening media, let's take a moment of silence for the 49ers. And I'm so happy to see this. They trade Deebo Samuel. They lose Aaron Banks. They lose Leonard Floyd. They lose Hufanga. They lose Dre Greenlaw. I absolutely love it. Kudos to the Denver Broncos. Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw are both stellar defenders at their respective positions. Great pickups for Denver. But I'm so happy to see some studs leave San Francisco. And as much as I praise the Cowboys in their drafting, this is why they need a real GM, though, Eric, is because during the season, they traded a fourth round pick for Jonathan Mingo. And this offseason, the Washington Commanders traded a fifth round pick for Deebo Samuel. I know 100% of Cowboys fans would be like, dude, what are we doing? You can trade a fifth round for Deebo and you trade a fourth for Jonathan Mingo. How many of us even know who Mingo is unless your fantasy football team sucks that bad you're scouring the waiver
Mm-hmm.
wire that much? So
Oh yeah, that's you can tell we play fantasy football in some deep leagues where we both know exactly who that guy is. Those are perfect examples of those. Those can be the pieces that help solidify. And is it the piece that's going to put you over the top? Maybe not, but it's not going to be the piece that hurts you. It's going to push you up the mountain a little bit further. And the Commanders, they see that they have something special, and they're doing some work. They've gotten rid of their toxic, terrible human being of an owner. They have a good coaching staff, a good front office, a bright young quarterback who I just got lucky and drafted in one of my fantasy leagues that we have keepers. I'm keeping that mother. Yeah, I'm riding with him next year, and I want to see what happens. When you see franchises with these young quarterbacks and they actually start making moves to put stuff around them, oh, I love that. Now, my curiosity is, do these Seahawks, I don't think they'll do it in the first round, maybe not even the first three, but do they draft a quarterback to learn? Do they try to reenact the Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott? Are they going to go down that road, do you think, this year?
I could definitely see that happening. And I honestly like Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss, but I don't like him enough to pull the trigger that high. I would
I
rather.
want him just because of his name.
I
What
mean,
a
it's a
great name
perfect
for a
quarterback.
quarterback.
Doesn't it sound
Good
like one of
God.
those made up Madden names?
Yes, completely.
And speaking of which, I got to give a shout out to Tay Williams. He dropped some knowledge on me right now that I didn't even consider, that relationships matter in this world. And he has just such a great point because this isn't Madden franchise trades. This isn't fantasy trades. That's a great point. The rivalry from the 90s through now with the Cowboys and the 49ers is real. You don't want to
Yeah.
trade to a rival, especially when emotions get involved. And so I just think that's a great point. This ain't a Madden franchise. Relationships, attitudes towards other clubs matter. But holy shit, man, I want to jump on the Ravens really quick. You were talking about bringing back your own, paying your own. And for whatever it's worth,
Mm.
Ronnie Stanley, left tackle, he's had a couple of catastrophic injuries in his career, but when he is healthy, he's an absolute stud. They bring back one of their own guards, Ben Cleveland, and one of my favorite players. How many people have a 300-pound fullback? And they signed DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know what's left in the tank, but I know if you're just asking him to be a second, third, or fourth receiver, he can do a little damage for you.
I think he's been hurt with just nobody throwing to him, whether it be Tennessee or where he was bouncing around. But with Lamar has gotten his accuracy from when he came out of college, because it was like, okay, he's just going to be Vince Young 2.0. He'll run around, he'll sidearm it a couple times and see what happens. He's a damn accurate quarterback now. So I think D Hop actually has a bit more left in the tank than we actually think. I can see him actually making, maybe not, what he once was, because my goodness, that ceiling was very high. I can see him being a very viable threat for the Ravens. I still love Mark Andrews. Maybe my favorite tight end playing right now. He's fantastic. That is again one of those franchises where they make a move, and you go, okay, yeah, it's probably going to work out. They just seem to have that knack. They are a very, very good franchise, and I know Cleveland. It probably stings them more than we can realize, but they are. Yeah, they're damn good.
Oh, Tyson don't want to hear your shit about Mark Andrews. The wound is still open when it hits you right between the 8 and the 9 on the most critical play of the season. I digress.
I know. I still like him, but yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I want to point one thing out about the Ravens, though, bro, and you know how important continuity is to me in any sport between the ownership, the front office, the coaching staff, and the players. The continuity is important. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes guys need to be fired. Sometimes guys need to be fired. But look at, since the Ravens moved from Cleveland, they had Ozzie Newsome as their GM. And then Eric DaCosta is now their GM, but he was the assistant right-hand man that entire time, basically, came up through the ranks. So the Ravens' philosophy is so rock solid in what they're doing. Don't get me wrong. I think that maybe they should have done a little more damage in the playoffs the last few years than they have. Easier said than done, because you only get one game to make this happen. It's not a 7-game series out here, but the continuity matters. And you're like the Ravens, they just know what they want and what they're looking for. And what is it now? About 25 plus years of front office continuity. There's no bullshit, and they know what they're looking for.
You look at some of the best franchises, and there is that continuity. I mean, hell, even look at Seattle. We've had the same GM now for quite a while, and it helps. Steelers, what have they had? 3 coaches ever? They're always, and say what you want about Coward, Tomlin. I still think Tomlin's a damn good coach. He's rough around the edges. He's tough, but these franchises that have the constant continuity, and then on the flip side of that, any pseudo sportsman, we could probably write down, okay, name 8 franchises that are either going to have a head coaching change or a GM change next year. You and I could probably get 6 out of the 8 just being sports fans, because it's the same ones each time. Yes, sometimes GMs, coaches, sometimes they need to be let go. The message is lost. But I am with you on the trigger is pulled far too quickly. And it is because when it all boils down, it's a business. And the billionaires aren't making enough money. They need more toys. It's a little frustrating because there have been good coaches let go. Bob Melvin, before they should have been let go. And, that might be a bad example, but at the same time, the continuity matters, and sometimes the triggers just pull too quickly.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Quick question then. Do you think on planet Earth there is 32 quality NFL head coaches and 32 quality GMs?
No.
I don't either. And so that's why you got to be careful.
Yeah. No, just like I'll throw in my little niche reference, F1 is supposed to be the top 20 drivers. It's not. There's 20 cars. It's supposed to be the top 20 drivers in the world. It's not. There's supposed to be 32 after watching college football, and then some of the other franchises are supposed to be 32 stud quality starters in the league. There's not. And yeah, you got to roll the dice with the draft. It's pretty rare, it feels like, that a team hits on a free agent unless you're blocked, unless you are Patrick Mahomes' backup, unless you are Josh Allen's backup, unless you're Brett Favre's backup and you end up with Hasselbeck. Unless it's a situation like that where then it might be, but unless you draft the guy, it's been pretty hard.
Sunday Evening
So who
Media
knows?
is asking us
We got here.
Jackson Dart in round 2 or Kyle McCord in round 3 for the Seahawks. Kyle McCord in round 3 easily, and it's not even close to me.
Agreed.
It's just about maximizing the resources.
Yeah, we can get so much more. I don't want to say Dart won't be good and we couldn't use him, but it feels like that second round we could. There are other holes to fill. Let's just say that.
Oh, absolutely. And I still would be fine if we just let quarterback go in this draft and worried about it in the next one. Because I'm with these guys, and we got to look on the horizon too for who is upcoming free agents in the next couple years. All of a sudden, like offensive line is an obvious need, but let's not forget our defensive line, although looking really good right now, there's a lot of guys that are kind of older on that D line. Wide receiver is now a need, and cornerback is also a need. So we need to think a little bit more holistically because we're not going to be able to re-sign everybody. And I already have my list, dude. Okay. Young players on the
And this is not a
Seahawks.
deep quarterback draft.
No, not at all. Charles Cross, Boye Mafe, and Derek Hall. I think they all need to be extended. Those are all big
Agreed.
money contracts coming, and you can't keep everyone. So then you got to wonder, what do you do with your Tariq Woolens of the world?
Yeah, that's where finding the talent in some of these positions later in the rounds is really going to be key. Can we still find talent in the 5th, 6th, 7th round for depth at corner, to find your nickel, to find your, 3rd, 4th, 5th cornerback? Are you still going to be able to find depth for running back, receiver? Some of these, and I'm concentrating more on depth than necessarily starters, because you need guys who are just solid, who will come in, not fuck it up, and just do the job.
Mm-hmm.
The best backups in the world, if they come in for 4 games, I just want them to go 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
I want the backup quarterback to go 500. I don't know really how you measure that with a backup, say, lineman, linebacker, corner, but that's what I'm looking for. I want them to be solid, do their job, don't do too much, don't mess up, and hopefully, because those are big money contracts. And unfortunately, the NFL setup, you can't pay everyone. So got to make some decisions.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I just want to also add one thing to Kyle McCord in regards to college football is just looking at how stacked Ohio State was this year. I fully believe they could have won the championship with Kyle McCord just as well as Will Howard.
Yeah, it's hard to argue against it. That was a special team. That was stacked. And I still think the loss to the Ducks might have been their biggest wake-up call to, sometimes you need that loss to kind of refocus your team and refocus everybody, prove that you're not invulnerable, and go get it done. Because we've seen it in college hoops and in college football. Best team undefeated and then gets bounced either in semifinals or in the finals because they haven't had to deal with that adversity. When Ohio State had to deal with that adversity earlier in the year, I think it helped them.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And then top it off, man, dude, home and field advantage is gigantic in college football. Huge. And Ohio State only lost by a couple points at Oregon, Autzen Stadium, one of the rowdiest stadiums you can go to, especially not in the South. So we got to give a little credit to that, man. I mean, NFL is just crazy right now. The draft's around the corner, man. I'm really optimistic about the Seahawks right now, but there's a huge asterisk. If they somehow decide to neglect the interior O line between now and the start of training camp, I'll have to throw my hands in the air.
Dude, I hope I'm just going, oh man, I had that wrong. I did, Sam Darnold's been great. They addressed their line. It's just I'm basing this off of, we've seen it. I'm basing this off of history of when they go cheap on the O line. It's like, we can get value out of this guy because he fits our system. And and I'm pretty sure I can still run faster than him. And these are professional athletes. And so I'm basing it off of just that. I'm hoping that, and I don't want to expect too much out of the rookies. And we saw it this year in college football, especially, our beloved Huskies, whether it be Oregon, USC. when these teams traveled across the country to play, it took till I don't remember. I was supposed to say it was week 7 or 8 till a West Coast team won in the Eastern time zone.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily want to rely on rookies, and I think I brought this up before, especially with rookie quarterbacks. Give them a year to just get used to being in the NFL, to the travel, to the schedule, to the longevity. This is a long schedule.
Mhm.
You're on planes. You're doing this, that, and the other. You have media. You like let them get used to the grind as they're learning the playbook, as they're learning the nuance. So that's I want us to, I love a good rookie class, but I don't want to rely on the rookies either, though.
Well, you can't.
Yeah.
And here's another, we were talking about giving up on coaches and GMs too early. How often do teams give up on players too early? Because even some of the best players in the NFL don't always pop in their rookie year. It's really difficult. And then to top it off, just think about it. If you are a draft pick in the NFL, you have basically been kicking everybody's ass in your sport your entire life. And for the first time ever, it's an equal playing field. Now, how do you react? Now, how do you improve? Now, how do you work and grind?
Yeah, that's how you test these kids' mental game, which is not the easiest thing to dial in. But the mentally tough ones are usually the ones that can take it. But how can you tell? And the NIL has made it even a little bit more convoluted where a kid wants, I want to start this, I want to do this, that, and the other. Sorry, we can't guarantee that. Okay, transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not getting what you wanted, so you're going to go take your ball and run. That's a little too simple of an analogy, but at the same time, you get to the big dance. Oh, I want this. Tough. He's better than you.
Yeah. And you signed a contract at that point. So you can't just get
Yeah.
up and leave.
Yeah. So I'm curious how the NIL will deal with some of the rookies that are not the mentally strongest of candidates. A lot of these kids are physically strong. A lot of these kids can run, hit. Do you have the mental game? And I think that's what separates. That's where I kind of question DK because, we've seen him blow up. Love DK's talent. He's a freak show physically. His mental game is subpar. His hands were meh. So his route running was not great. If his head wasn't in it, he wasn't good. I don't mind that we got draft picks back for him. So that's the hard part. How do you measure the mental game?
Well, that's a really $1 million question, literally, bro. All right, man.
Oh yeah, true.
You're wearing that Mariners jersey, and
Okay.
I can talk about the team a little bit, but there's a
Touch on
certain
him.
Mariners prospect who made headlines in the national sports news recently. We got to get into this dude. We got to get into this dude. Durangelo Sagente, the 2024 first rounder, literally was making national sports news because he is a switch pitcher. This dude this last week literally threw a 92-mile-per-hour pitch lefty, and then on the very next pitch threw a 95-mile-per-hour as a righty, bro. What do we think of this? This is just crazy.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. I love that he's getting national attention so that we actually have some video to watch of him. Because when he's drafted, we heard, okay, this kid pitches from both sides. Jerry had brought in a relief pitcher, I don't remember his name, a couple years ago, who could pitch from both sides. It was kind of a cool thing. This kid's also, he's big. He's built. He is thick. So as far as the body breaking down from either side, I don't necessarily see it. He's a big kid. The $1 million question in this one is, will they basically let him keep pitching from both sides? Or does he become a starter and go, nah, you're pitching from the right side? And if he doesn't consistently pitch from both sides, does the left kind of, if he switches, all of a sudden is he a little wild? It's so cool to see because it looks buttery smooth from both sides. Like, this is not normal. anyone who's right-handed, you try to throw with your left, it looks like you're having a stroke. And this guy's, it's just so pretty to watch. I hope they can let him keep. God, the fantasy baseball, man, how cool would that be as a closer?
Oh wow.
Bringing your favorite guys is like, all right, which arm do you want me to? Okay. Oh, Aaron Judge. Okay. Okay, left. Okay. That would be so much fun to watch.
I'm gearing up, bro. You know how much I love baseball. You know how much I love baseball. Okay, I want to get to the live chat really quick. Thank you, Sunday Evening Media. It's going to be way easier for Tyson to read that name than for me to try to spell it out, because it's impossible to spell out. Gerangelo Sagente, and how you pronounce it is nothing like you say it. But bro, okay, according to GM Justin Hollander, the plan for the young man right now is he's going to start as a right-handed pitcher, and then he will transition into different lineup pockets as a lefty. So say he starts a game obviously as a righty, and we go through a stretch. I mean, say we're playing the Houston Astros, for example. Now, granted, they just traded Kyle Tucker, but just take this as an example. So he's pitching right-handed all game, and now you have to go against Kyle Tucker and frickin' Yordan Alvarez back-to-back. Think of your other favorite lefties in the game. Well, what if he just switches to left-handed for two batters and goes back to right-handed? And I love Mariners Cypher calling him maybe a weapon X, because there's so many different options. What if he is a right-handed every fifth day starter and he's our lefty specialist out of the pen? I mean, it could go so many different directions, but the real bottom line is, though, is they're also asking, this guy's years from the big leagues. He's years from the big
leagues. Is.
And so we'll see, because the journey from rookie ball to the big leagues is a journey that very few actually make, even as a first-round pick. But the one thing is we know is, as an organization, the Mariners may be inept at signing free agent hitters, but they are fantastic at developing young pitchers.
I hope they don't overthink this one. The Mariners have a history, it feels like, of overthinking their prospects. I wonder, in a situation like playing Houston with Alvarez, and is his left arm warmed up enough? Like these, I mean, they're finely tuned. Yeah, like he's been throwing right. If he switches to left, is he now going to be wild? Does he have to, like, in between batters, like, throw Cal one pitch lefty just to keep it nice and loose? I'm curious what they do with him, because he's so unique, and it's any Shohei Ohtani comparison is not quite right, because he doesn't hit, but it's that, oh well, this guy can do both. Well, we have a guy who can do a little bit of both also. I kind of like that idea of he's a righty starting pitcher and then a lefty specialist. That just feels like you could utilize him really well with that. Again, he is years away, but this is one of those journeys I think we're going to be focusing on, because he is just so unique, so fun to watch. I'm really hopeful he gets to the big leagues as a starter and switches back and forth.
Dude, Mariners Lifer, look at that, what Mariners Lifer just said, dude. That's crazy.
Mariners Lifer, in college, he pitched from the right on Fridays and left on Sundays. What? That's cool. This is a very crude analogy, but follow me on this. We've seen what the Steph Curry effect is in the NBA, where everyone's just jacking up threes.
Mm-hmm.
If this kid comes up and can pitch from both sides, what do we see in 20 years? Do we see more of it? I mean, the Shohei effect, I think, is going to happen, where pitching and hitting, I think we might have more players who are legit in both over the next, say, 10-ish years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could happen. Never know.
Just in my personal opinion, dude, is I think it's more likely to have more Shohei Ohtani types than Gerangelo Sanchez types. Just this ambidextrous athlete is so incredible. And just think about it. Like, for anyone who's played different sports, like, it takes a long time to develop any sort of consistency and ability with your left hand in basketball. It takes a lot of time and effort to develop your left foot in soccer if you're a right hand dominant person. And for some people, it really never clicks. And regardless, even if you become excellent with both, like say a Kyrie Irving, for example, it takes a lifetime of work to become equal with your left and right hands in basketball or your left and right foot in soccer. And the one thing I'd say is when it comes to major league ball players, at one point, all of these dudes were pitching and hitting. And at some point down their lines, they went specific on what their role was going to be. And it sounds like there's already a couple other young Japanese players that want to follow in Shohei's footsteps. I'm not saying it's easy. And I'm not saying Sensei is ever going to even make it to the major leagues. But there's a reason this story and these videos went nationwide viral because it's that freaking crazy.
It's so we love something that's just a little bit different. Baseball's the pastime, and we all think we know it. And then this guy's pitching from both sides, and with fire in the '90s. That's why we love it. Even after all this history, you can still see something that's just a little bit different. Love that. Hopefully it works out. Really hopeful, but it's just gonna be a journey that we'll watch. But that it's just so fun. I love that at least it's getting the attention.
Oh yeah. Well, it's special and unique, like you said, and that's something that all humans look for in anything that they like, music, sports, whatever. People like
Yep.
movies, TVs, something that's unique really gets people going. I just want to touch on one thing really quick, and Tyson Baxter's been bugging us about trading Baltimore some arms for some hitters. And this is why I've been hesitant though. George Kirby week to week with shoulder inflammation.
Mhm.
He might be out until May. It's really undecided right now because you don't need to put guys on an injury list during spring training. But that's a big loss if he misses some starts, but a huge opportunity for Emerson Hancock. And this is why we always talk about Eric. We don't talk about our first 5 starting pitchers. You talk about the first like 6, 7, 8, maybe up to 10, just because you know they're going to have to come in at some point unless you have incredible luck with arm injuries. And I guess I got to ask you then, how far can the Mariners take this if George Kirby misses significant time?
Not far.
Oh, ouch.
Not far. No, you need him. I love Emerson. I loved when we had Tommy Malone in AAA. I loved having that kind of veteran who, when injuries happen, could come up and do 4, 5 if he's having a really nice game, 6 innings. And just however much pitching you think you have and you're good, double it. And you might be close. And you might be close. If Kirby goes out, as much as I love Castillo, Logan, I think we'll still be good. But I mean, hell, we saw Garrett Cole. He's got Tommy John. He's out for the year. What are the Yankees doing now? I love Kirby, and I was thinking he was going to take. I thought he was going to take the rotation. This was going to be the George Kirby real breakout year. And this is why I just don't. I know processor suspects. I can hear you, RG, but and I agree. But when it comes to stud pitching, like I wonder how close Logan Evans is. I think he feels like our next in line. But again, when you get to the show, it's a little different. So all these cats, I'm curious what a package would look like. Because we've gotten burned by Baltimore before, Eric Bedard. Yeah. So I'm curious what a package like that would look like. I'm curious because it feels like they have just stud after stud after stud of young kids. Jerry has proven he can identify pitching, he can draft pitching and develop it. So if we do trade an Emerson Hancock, Logan Evans, or any other pitcher, it feels like with his track record that can be recuperated at least.
Yeah,
because he has. So as much as I would love to not trade starting pitching, you have the number one farm system in the MLB. Use it to get your MLB team to the. I don't want postseason. I want a goddamn World Series before I die.
It's just it's crazy to think about, man. It really is. I also got to ask you then, is your sixth, seventh, and eighth starting pitchers in your organization, are they more expendable now because of the proliferation of bullpen days? Or am I crazy?
No, I think you're probably right. I'm definitely not a fan of the bullpen days. I know good old Madden and the Rays thought they were doing something innovative, and I could see what he was going after. After the third time through the lineup is when the starting pitcher started to struggle because he was a little more tired and everyone's seen him twice. So use a starter and then let your starter go from inning 2 to 7, hopefully, and then use the back end. I don't know. It felt like it almost felt like the Wildcat offense. The original team could pull it off, but everyone else who tried to do it just sucked at it. Just it never quite worked. What people forgot about the Wildcat is those two running backs. It was an option. It was a running play. There was no quarterback at receiver. You clowns. They were off the field. You knew they were going to run. It was just who was it going to go to?
Mm-hmm.
With the bullpen days, you just hopefully knock this guy around because the starter's coming in, and hopefully you can make them bring him in that first inning. I don't know. It's a little hokey, but I'm not a big fan of bullpen days. But hopefully with a 6th, 7th, 8th starter, we can still get away from those bullpen days.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously don't want them.
No.
I mean, it was invented by the Rays out of complete necessity. And then everybody started doing it. What is necessity is the mother of invention, I believe is what it is. And
well played.
So we'll see what happens here. All I know is the Orioles are dangerous because they slug the shit out of the ball. The Mariners are dangerous because they pitch it. We're 10 days away from Major League Baseball. So I'm pumped regardless. In me and Eric's profession, Mariners baseball makes the day go so much better. But I'd be remiss right now, bro. It's March Madness time. And although I rarely watch college basketball during the regular season, I am like many sports fans and absolutely love the tournament. And I got to give a huge shout out to my main man, RG. And I just want to remind everybody his strategy to make it fun. Put $5 or $10 on every underdog in the first round, maybe even the second. Have some fun with that thing and see what happens. But of course, don't bet what you can't afford to lose and always set your limits. But RG, Mr. Cash Considerations, put it down for us. Put $5 on all the underdogs and see what happens. I just got to tell you this, man. A rising tide raises all ships. The SEC set a record with 14 teams in the big dance. Historically, it's not a basketball conference, but what they've done with all of that football money is they've now become studs at softball, baseball, women's hoops, gymnastics, men's hoops. So the Pac 12 messed up a long time ago because they wanted to invest directly into the Olympic sports when the clear path to making those programs better was to just put your money in football and let it work like a business to bring back more cash. I digress. I can't believe the SEC has 14 teams in the dance. I'm going to just ask you, since you're from the Northwest, but you're also on the west side of the Cascade Mountains, what do you think about perennial contender Gonzaga, just as a whole and as a fan?
Oh, I really wish they would have won it though there a couple of years ago. Where were they at? They're in an 8-9 game this year. Great. love Gonzaga because it feels like, for whatever reason, Gonzaga is the only Washington State basketball team we can root for anymore. The Huskies are not good enough. The Cougs they've had some good teams, but it feels like Gonzaga is the only consistent one. I would love to see Gonzaga basketball, or I would have loved to see them back when it was Pac-12, because I still think they would have wiped the floor with most, if not all, the teams.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember when Florida won the tournament back to back. I'm like, this is a football school. And they just won back to back titles. Like, wait a minute. That, for me, was a bit of the eye opener of, you get hot at the right time, great core, good coaching. You got to win 6 in a row. Someone's got to do it. I mean, Butler, bless their heart, they almost pulled it off twice.
Mm-hmm.
Just that that half court shot against Duke. Oh, how many of us wanted that to go in? I can't believe the SEC has 14 teams, but credit where credit's due. They knew how to do the business. The Pac-12 did not. And I mean the Pac-12 failed so miserably. You should not be letting these kids out of California and Arizona go anywhere else. Anybody from Hawaii should not be going past the Rocky Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
They screwed it up so bad. So SEC, hats off to you, because my God, did you guys pull off, I don't want to say a miracle, but that was a hell of a year that they just had.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. I'm just going to put a quick stamp on the Pac-12. The Pac-12 had such horrible foresight that they're not even a conference anymore.
Yeah. And I see Oregon, Arizona, and it's like, oh, well, I know the vitriol for Oregon is much more football than basketball. I still don't necessarily want them to win in basketball, but if they keep going, it's kind of like, yeah, all right. And this conference, I just want them to rename the conferences, because when I see the ACC have Stanford and Cal, I'm like, get your head out of your ass. Give me a break. Atlantic Coast Conference with 2 California schools. So maybe we'll be able to get the Pac-12 again, but it's going to take a lot of work.
I love it when
Pac-12 with the proper schools.
There we go.
No, I mean Pac-12 with the proper schools. That's what I was getting at.
There we go. We were all clowning on Tommy because he promised us Notre Dame would make the CFP final, and he was right. And he's going a little crazy again, talking about BYU, but I also wrote down St. John's. I only wrote down a couple of notes about the tournament, but St. John's, number 2 seed. They have largely been irrelevant in this century, the last 25 years. But I got to say, Rick Pitino can coach. No matter how old or slimy he may be, the dude can coach. St. John's won its first conference tourney since 2000. It's been 25 years. They were a once very, very proud program with the likes of Chris Mullen, Mark Jackson, Meta World Peace. Different time periods for each of them, but y'all know what I'm saying. A once very, very proud program. I'm going to quote my homie RG, and he says, Rick Pitino will win you a championship and get you on sanctions later. And I would take that every time. I would take that every time, bro. And I would add something, though. In the NIL world, maybe you can win a championship without the sanctions, because I read somewhat recently, bro, that billionaire St. John's alum Mike Reppel has pledged major financial support for the basketball program for the foreseeable future. So if you let Rick Pitino get some legal money, not some envelope slid under the menu at some restaurants, they might be able to do some real damage there in New York City.
That greasy motherfucker can coach. That scum, sleazy. But now the bags are on the table. The money's on the table. Everyone can see it. There's nothing backhanded anymore. This guy might be in his prime now, and he has had a hell of a run as a coach. And yeah, I remember St. John's. They were always in the tournament and always a top 4 seed in one of the brackets. They're there forever. Been unheard of. I can't believe that he's just still, whatever message he sends to the kids, it worked. Obviously, because he's bounced around now for one reason or another, but it works no matter where he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
He's got reaching pipelines too. I want to remind you, when he was at Louisville, he came up to Seattle and got Peyton Siva out of Franklin, and he came up and got Terrence Williams out of Rainier Beach. So this guy can recruit from every corner of the country. Now he's got a billionaire backing in the city of New York. Incredible. I just want to put one more stamp on this NIL basketball talk. Tommy is absolutely right. BYU actually has extremely deep pockets for NIL. I believe they even signed the number one player for the class of 2026 in hoops. That's the sort of money they have to spend on NIL.
Don't fuck with Mormon money.
Yeah, for real.
They'll take care, dude.
And I joked about this with RG, man. If we all cut out caffeine and alcohol spending, our budgets would look much better.
With our job, you think we're cutting out either of those? Give me a break. Hell fucking no. I guess the Huskies are going to remain poor.
That's what it is. That's what it is, man. They might get a whole tree fitty from me, but shit, man. We've covered the gambit, man. Open floor to you. Is there anything you want to get off your chest here?
Nah, RG, hope you're doing well, man. I will do my quick plug for my F1. We had the first race in Australia last night. Because of the time change, it was 9 o'clock at night, which I stayed awake for miraculously. Fantastic race. McLaren won. So if anybody ever has F1 chat, I'm here for you. And take the opportunity. So I've done this with F1, and I'm starting to do it with baseball. If anybody has kids, little kids, tell this to your friends. So last night's race was in Australia. I tell my daughter, here's the map. Where's Australia at? Next race is in China. All right, honey, on the map, where's China at? Honey, the Mariners are playing the Texas Rangers. Where's Texas at? They're playing Miami Marlins. Miami's in Florida. Where's Florida at? If you got some little kids, you try using it not just for sports, but teach them just, some other lessons that aren't necessarily a sport, because let's be fair, kids have their attention spans. So try to be creative in how you kind of present your hobbies, and maybe you'll be able to chat about your hobbies with your kids when they're much older. Just an idea that we've been doing, and it seems to be having a lot of fun.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Absolutely fantastic. I love it.
Indy, thank you. Katie, thank you. RG, thank you. Ty, I hope you are driving next to me next week, my friend. He put his name on a route that's pretty close to where I drive my truck at, and we are officially crossing fingers. Because, we need to banter more. Why not?
There we go. There we go. Y'all know what time it is, man. Okay. I want to humor Tyson Baxter here. I have no clue who he's talking about. Take the mic.
Nico Hulkenberg. He has been a very, very solid midfield driver. Very nice guy. And for some reason or another, he has never finished on the podium. And he is one of those drivers who has so much talent, but he's always been stuck in kind of the middle. He's never been on one of the top teams. So he's never quite got that opportunity to finish 1, 2, 3. He is now going to drive they're going to turn into Audi next year. Fingers crossed that Audi can deliver a car to get this man on the podium before he retires, because I think he's 34 or 35, which in sports means you're 107, even in F1. He's close to retirement. So I'm hoping Tyson Baxter's got some style. I like this guy. He's got some flavor. Hulkenberg, the favorite. Love that.
There we go. And I can always learn something too. In fact, I'm one of those people where I feel if you're not learning, you're not developing as a person. So I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Y'all know, oh my, it's another sports podcast. Of course, once again, huge shout out to super producer Indy from Nashville, Tennessee. My, oh my, special thanks, Vaden Podcast Services. That's Vaden Podcast Services. Like RG always reminds us, check out Death to Indie on YouTube. He's a wonderful musician as well. I actually want to give a random shout out to my cousin-in-law who does the beat for the podcast version of the show. So huge shout out to him. Safe travels on Spotify. Safe travels on Spotify. Got to give a huge shout out to my wonderful wife, Katie, a social media director, helping buffoons like me navigate the internet. Guys like me need help in that category. Got to give a giant shout out to the homies in the live chat. This show became exponentially better when y'all became a part of it. Giant shout out to my main man, Eric Neal. Thank you so much. You come in hitting pinch hit grand slams. It's what you do. Another giant shout out to my main man, RG. He's been a terror since the public school era. I miss you, big dog. Can't wait to get you back on the mic. He makes me better, and I probably make him worse, but I digress. I'm Tide Talks 24. It's my oh my, it's another sports podcast. Get at us, people.